From the MX5 studios in Jerusalem, Israel, our nation's capital, it's Louis Live! Now your hosts, me and Raphael Geller. How you doing, man?
Good. Crazy weekend in sports. Lots to talk about. Let's get it going.
This is one of those shows that 2 hours really isn't enough, but
No, not at all.
we're going to have to make do with the 2 hours. We have a great show tonight, jam-packed, full of great guests. We have three guests tonight from really excellent news source. Two of them are from excellent newspapers. Third one, of course, is a coach involved. First guest at 5:30 local time, Dick Weiss from the New York Daily News. So that'll be fun. We'll talk some college basketball with him. Then Michael how do you say his last name?
Corsi, I believe.
De Corse from the Sporting News. So guess what? We'll also talk college basketball with him as well because it is March Madness, and we've had one or two upsets. I don't know about your bracket. My bracket does not look so good. And we'll also talk about the Israel Sports Radio standings. And then Israeli basketball coaching legend Ilan Kowalski will come on at 6:30. So fun show tonight. If you want to chime in at all or give your opinion, you can use our chat line facility. We won't be able to take phone calls during the interviews, but you can go to our top right corner of the website and chat in to this show. But before we get into college basketball and our poll, it's Peyton Manning. He makes a decision between all these teams, all the suitors, all the people pursuing him, and decides to go with the Denver Broncos. Jim Williams said he thought it was between Denver and Arizona. Jim was right, and Peyton Manning picks Denver. I kind of don't know where to begin. Let's get your thoughts first, Raphael.
Yeah, like you said, it's kind of one of those things where it's been going on now for weeks. Everyone's been waiting to hear the big news, and finally last night it was reported that Peyton Manning is probably going to sign a 5-year, $95 million. I think you said $45 million guaranteed.
Yeah, $45 guaranteed. It's basically the same contract he had with the Colts. And as we talked in the green room, part of the reason Manning picked Denver, we assume, is the money. No one else was offering that type of money to Peyton Manning. Big factor in his decision. It looked like he was leaning towards Tennessee. He spent 8 hours with the Titans. He went to college at Tennessee. His wife also went to college there. It looked like he was going to end his career where it started. Then decided to go to Denver. And one of the biggest issues talked about now is where does Tim Tebow go?
Right. I mean, Bronco Mike out there is probably crying his eyes out right now.
He really is.
He preferred Tebow.
Broncos Mike is really devastated. I talked to him a lot last night into the wee hours of the morning. Very upset by this. He has tweeted and he's talked on Facebook that he will be a fan of the Broncos still, but will also be a fan
of
to
Tebow.
whatever team Tebow goes to. Of course, now here's what I said to you in the green room that I wanted to wait on the air about where Tebow should go, what he should do. Broncos Mike, I give him credit for this brilliant idea. Tebow should stay with the Broncos, be a running back.
A running back.
They can't stop him. He is built like a lineman. They list him as 240. He's probably 260.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen because Elway doesn't like Tebow.
No, obvious. And they have Willis McGahee, who's a pretty darn good running back.
But you have a two-headed monster. Here's Manning in the backfield, hands off to Tebow. Tebow gets 7, 8, 9, 10 touchdown. Tim Tebow and the Broncos. They wouldn't be able to touch him. And this is a team minus Peyton Manning that went to the playoffs and won a playoff game. So plus Peyton Manning, and if you had Tebow in the backfield, who knows where they're going to go. But again, it's a fun idea. I like it. Not going to happen. And I don't know if Tebow wants to do that anyways. Yeah. Tebow, I think, views himself as a quarterback.
Tebow is a quarterback. He's a competitor. He's a guy that wants to be on the field every play. That's not going to happen if he's a running back. The transition from quarterback to running back, I don't believe has ever occurred in the NFL. All the time you have guys who are quarterbacks in college football that make the transition to receiver. That happens a lot, actually. But Matt Jones, who played for Jacksonville, was a big quarterback in Arkansas. They've had a lot of guys, but running back, quarterback, transition, not happening.
By the way, also one of the things I talked about with Broncos Mike about this concept of keeping Tebow. I also spoke with Jim Williams last night on the phone about this as the story got broke over the airwaves is, well, what if Manny's not healthy? Do you want Tebow there as backup, as insurance? The problem is there's twofold. Manning, he's going to be 36 this Shabbat apparently. But
Mazal tov.
Yeah, Mazal tov to Manning on that milestone in his age. But he's passed physical after physical after physical. He looks like he's ready to go. And, again, Tebow's not staying with Denver, but this has ripple effects throughout the NFL. again, where does Tebow go? There's rumors he's going to Miami, even though Miami signed
David Gerard.
So I don't know how that would work exactly, or where
that
Tebow's gonna.
That doesn't look like anymore. David Gerard is signing to be a starter. His only competition is Matt Moore, who actually had a pretty good second half last year for the Dolphins. But you take Matt Moore over David Gerard. I don't think so. Gerard's going there to be the starter. Tebow's not going to Miami.
Now, another thing with the rippling effect is the 49ers, because they pursued him pretty hard. And
I still think he should have gone the 49ers. To this day, I don't understand the logic. The money. I mean, actually, I'm not the biggest Peyton Manning fan. I won't say I am, but I really don't understand why Manning doesn't go there. Great young coach who I'm sure you would get along with. Some people are saying that maybe Harbaugh was a little too aggressive and tough and too crazy for Manning. Manning prefers the laid back. He had Dungy for most of his career. Dungy was that nice guy who always was smiling, and then they had Caldwell, who didn't even really do anything. Harbaugh's more in your face, yelling at you. So people are saying that, but he's a great coach. I think we were going to talk about maybe the receivers. Moss.
Well, yeah, the Niners signed Moss and Mario Manningham, and Manningham was
that great catch.
That great catch that won the Giants the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter on the final drive. Manningham is an excellent receiver. I mean, I followed him back in the days of Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
When he had 3 touchdowns against my Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Chad Henne was his quarterback, I believe.
Yes, at Michigan.
Right, who's now what's going – Henne's also been rumored to go to Jacksonville potentially.
And that's also – there's a rumor of Tebow going to Jacksonville. Keep in mind, Tebow – had one of the greatest college careers ever at Florida. Florida Heisman Trophy winner, could have won 2 or 3, won 2 national championships. His freshman year, he was basically the running back. They sent him in on third down. He wasn't the starter, and
Chris Leak.
They just could. Ohio State had no chance to stop it. That game was in Arizona, by the way. Now, one of the things to think about with the Niners, you get the 2 receivers, but Alex Smith's feelings could be hurt, and it's not like with Denver, where Denver got Manning and they could ship Tebow off. You can't really ship off Alex Smith unless he really, really demands that they put so much money into the number 1 overall pick of 2005. Probably going to have to make nice, but there is a little feud between him and Harbaugh. What do you think happens with Alex Smith?
Well, I got to say this. Alex Smith can't be mad for 6 years of his contract. He was mediocre. Last year was his breakout season.
That's why I said.
Yeah, 7 year. It doesn't take 7 years. I think that you should be grateful that they held on to him for that long. That's a miracle. Most teams, look at Jamarcus Russell and the Raiders. They got rid of him after 3 years, and he was also the first pick. So, and I think if you really want to look at the team that should be hurt, you talked about the 49ers, is the Titans. You got Matt Hasselbeck and Jake Locker, who Bud Williams, the owner of Tennessee, kind of just said, I don't really care about them anymore. I want Manning out. Manning, now he doesn't have Manning. You have a veteran in Hasselbeck who's been to a Super Bowl, and you have they're saying the quarterback of the future, not just of the team, but in the NFL, Jake Locker from Washington. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird. That seems to be more of a big deal. Matt Hasselbeck is proven. He's a winner.
Yeah, he is.
And what is Alex Smith? He went to the playoffs, I think, once with the 49ers.
This last season was his first time in the postseason.
And he had a great postseason. We'll give him that. But
a lot of that was Vernon Davis.
Absolutely.
And the defense.
And Frank Gore. Let's forget the defense. Let's just end it with that.
Well, that's why Peyton Manning got to the 49ers. You think they'd be a lock to go to the Super Bowl. That defense, that wide receiver staff.
There must be something we don't know, some inside news.
Maybe he wouldn't get along with Harbaugh. I don't know. Maybe he really likes John Elway.
West Coast Giants, possibly not the same division, but same conference.
The conference thing. That's right. He could play against Eli. But you know what?
Part of the game.
It is part. I would say not part of the game. You could play anybody anytime. What happens if Denver and the Giants face in the Super Bowl? It's probably not going to happen. But what are you going to do?
Also, the Colts will most likely play Denver. I think the schedule's been released. I have not looked at it yet. But usually they play them every year, so it's...
Well, one of the juicy things about him potentially going to Tennessee was he was going to get the Colts twice.
Exactly.
Which would have been a lot of fun. And had he chosen the Miami Dolphins, would have got Tom Brady twice in the regular season. And also would have been a good time.
As a Pats fan, I just think he was scared.
It's very possible. He had that 1 year where he had the comeback back when they won the Super Bowl of the year, Super Bowl 41. Right. But the Pats have owned him throughout his career except for that one game.
Yep.
And there's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
So there's ripple effects with the 49ers, also ripple effects with the Broncos of who's joining Peyton Manning. We're hearing Jeff Saturday and Dallas Clark may join number 18.
Jeff Saturday is his main man, and Dallas Clark is a good receiver wherever he goes.
I think they're both joining him because they're both pretty close, and we talked in the green room that Saturday and Manning are like best friends.
Yeah,
so
very close.
I think they'll end up putting it together. I think the question is where does Denver are at this point? In my opinion, they upgraded the quarterback. Even I'm going to assume Peyton Manning is healthy, so I'm going to call it an upgrade.
I mean, Cutcliffe, who is his offensive coordinator at Tennessee and now the current Duke coach, has said multiple times to the media in the last couple of days that this is the Manning that you all know. He's back to himself. Everything will be fine, and I think that Denver definitely got an upgrade. I'm not a Peyton Manning fan. I respect him as a player, but
four-time MVP. Only got to do that.
Of course. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that people are saying they should have kept Tebow. I mean, look at Brett Favre. He had his best statistical year when he was 40. So
I'll tell you something funny, though. Tebow has a better winning percentage of the postseason than Peyton Manning because Tebow's 500.
Right.
And Peyton Manning is not.
Okay.
Now, that's a little joke. All right, I want to play a clip for the audience out there. I've discussed this earlier in the day. Peyton Manning was mic'd up a few years ago. He had an argument with Jeff Saturday, one of his best friends, who, back with the Colts, was Peyton's main blocking force. Was he center? Was he the center? Okay.
Small center, but center.
He was a center, and you said the smallest center in the NFL at 5'10", so height-wise.
Yeah.
Little, but wide, though. I think
wide.
he would take Peyton in a bar fight, but who knows? You never know with number 18. All right, let's play this clip. It's very hilarious. Again, this is from our friends with NFL.com.
Two guys who are very, very competitive. They know what they're doing. They support each other, and they know that they have to be on the same page for it to work. But at the same time, you got two very smart guys who will have some clashes at times.
Playing the Rams on Monday night, we got down there pretty close to the end zone. Damn it! We threw the ball 3 times in a row and incomplete and had to kick a field goal.
We came off the field and we exchanged words of how we thought it should get done.
And Jeff comes off and says, we need to be running the ball down there. And I just snapped.
Hey, we're calling the plays, all right? We gotta run the ball. Six down. We're pass block. We'll run the ball. Can we run it down there? This play. We can run it down there. Yeah, Jeff. We will. All right, we're gonna call pass plays. Block.
That was totally outmatched, size, strength, you name it.
No, he's calling plays. Go sit down. Now sit down. Don't quit yelling. Go sit down. Oh, we're cool. Y'all been yelling. We ain't telling us how. He's doing it. Come on, okay. He's yelling at us. You don't have to go yell. But I think he felt good about his workout that week, so he felt good about himself. The minute it was done, it's done for both of us.
The thing I like about it is you tell each other. You don't call a press conference and tell the media.
I'm mic'd up, too. I'm mic'd up. Mic'd up?
Oh, yeah.
Shut up.
No, I am. They're going to have it. It's better than Desperate Housewives. If Jeff's got a problem, he comes to me. If I got a problem, I go to him. And it's not always going to be this pleasant conversation.
Where can he go?
It's that healthy, conversation. I think that kind of makes you respect him and hopefully makes him respect me even more.
Regardless of what's said on the field or during a game, we all know it's for one goal.
That's all. Good job.
So there you go. That was famous mic'd up incident.
I'm sure they won the game from what it looked like at the end.
And it was funny because the next play after that argument, at least what they showed in the clip, they did run the ball and it did work. So Saturday had it right. But Peyton Manning is certainly an offensive genius. All right, we're going to switch gears and go now to the association. Dwight Howard did not move from Orlando like a lot of people thought he might, especially early in the season, but other other trades that occurred in the NBA.
Ramon Sessions was traded from the Cavaliers to the Los Angeles Lakers. The big thing, it wasn't really a trade, we were talking about this earlier, is Derek Fisher was traded to the Rockets as one of these blockbuster trades. And the Rockets have actually bought him out, and there are rumors that he is going to be signing with the Heat. But back to the Sessions trade, the Lakers were hoping that he'd add some solid guard play. Derek Fisher is having one of his worst years. Actually, no, let me go ahead and say his worst year in his career, averaging, I think, less than 5 points a game, doesn't look like the Derek Fisher that we know and love. And they just couldn't keep him. I don't know about the trade. We can get into that, but I think Ramon Sessions is an upgrade. He's a guy who's not young, but in the middle, and he's one of those rising young guys, or middle age. 28, 30. In that, he still has some game left. For Fisher's, I think in his mid or late 30s. So that's a big addition to the Lakers. We also had another big trade that we talked about last week. We had Andrew Bogut go for Monte.
Former number one pick, by the way. He was in that pick in the draft of Marvin Williams of Carolina, and Andrew's former coach, Rick Majerus of Utah, actually said Marvin should have got number one because Andrew has a bit of a problem with people. He has a personality issue. So what a surprise he didn't make it.
When he was in Milwaukee, he had a ton of injuries. His back, his elbow. For all of you who know me out there, it's kind of like me. But you
have a little bit better of an attitude, though, than Andrew. I mean, Andrew had very little heart, and I think that was a big part of the problem in Milwaukee. Now, Derek Fisher, if Miami can get him, here's generally the formula to success in the NBA to winning a title. You need 2 stars. Now, I know there are exceptions, but you generally need 2. 3 is too much. 1 is not enough. You need a crazy guy. Okay, if you go through the NBA titles, let's take the Bulls. Their second three-peat. Dennis Rodman was their crazy guy. 2 stars, Jordan and Pippen. With the Lakers, Rick Fox was the crazy guy. He would always be a knucklehead and start fights, and he really wasn't such a good player, but he was the crazy dude. With the Spurs, they had a couple of different guys. Robert Horry played more of the crazy guy in 07 when he checked Steve Nash on the boards. And don't forget that you had Steven Jackson on the 03 title team.
Oh, wow.
Famous for the Pacers brawl.
Oh, right. But
so
he
was on the Spurs in 03 when they won the title. He's a crazy guy. And last year for the Mavericks, even though they only had 1 star, they still had a crazy guy, and that was Tyson Chandler, in my opinion. Now, I don't know who Miami has as a crazy guy. They are missing that piece. But you need 2 stars, you need a crazy guy, and you need veteran leadership. You need one guy that's been there, done that. I know Wade has won a title, but not
really a veteran.
Wade is not really a veteran. Wade's still in his prime. Derek Fisher has won 5 NBA titles.
Yeah.
He was on 5 Laker teams. The Lakers, since the days of Magic Johnson, have not won an NBA championship without Derek Fisher. They have won without Shaq. They have not won with Derek Fisher. So,
he's
veteran guy. And you got to have him.
And really, the only time he left LA was he went to Utah
for that 1 year,
because his daughter required specific
eye
surgery, eye cancer. So it's not like he even left. He's a Laker for life, and so Kobe's been a little hurt by this. You've still got the Powell thing going on. Obviously, Powell was not traded at the end of the year or at the end of the deadline. They decided to keep him. They didn't decide to keep him. Howard declared to the media that he will not be opting out of the contract. He will be staying at least for the rest of this year and next year, but that he could potentially leave in 2012.
I'll tell you, if Kobe was a little younger, he might demand a trade. He was very upset Lamar was traded. He's upset Derek's traded, and he wanted Howard. So he had 3 things go wrong for him this year.
But that's the thing. I love Kobe, but he always wants. He always wants what he wants, and back in 07 or whatever, when you demanded a trade, it's part of the game. You can't win every year, and it seems like if they're not having a great year, he sometimes wants to leave, and that's something I don't really respect about him. He's one of my favorite players. I love him. He works harder than everyone in the NBA.
Best work ethic, no question.
But still, just the attitude of when things kind of fall apart, I want to get out. He did say though recently that he's now his 16th year. He's not going anywhere. Even if, I think he made a joke, even if we have the worst record in the NBA this year, which they're not obviously, but if we did, I'm not going. He's a Laker for life.
Yeah.
He's going to go down, I think, as the best Laker of all time. That's kind of a bold statement. Let's say at least top 3.
Well, he's all-time in scoring. I believe he is top 5.
Right.
I will try to double-check that when we get a chance. But, so, his points by far surpassing Magic Johnson. He's won 5 titles, as many as Magic. And remember, Wilt, I only won 1 title, and I don't believe it was with the Lakers. Or I'm sorry, he may have won 1 with the Lakers, but certainly not 5. Shaq won 4, and only 3 with the Lakers, 1 with Miami. And Kobe's won an MVP. One thing that would hurt him in the comparison with Magic won 3 MVPs.
Right.
Kobe only won 1.
I'd say the league is so much more deep the last couple of years. AI, Shaq, Tracy McGrady in his prime. A lot of great guys. I guess there were back then too. They were probably just as good, but who knows? I think another thing we should talk about if we're talking about the NBA is why not talk about two coaches who one got fired and one resigned. In Portland, we have Nate McMillan, who's won pretty much wherever he's gone. I think the issue there was no Odin. Brandon Roy's gone. LaMarcus Aldridge luckily did pan out the way they expected him to, the product from Texas. But the whole issue with Brandon Roy, who retired this season, and Greg Oden, who, by the way, got cut, was released.
It's only kind of time coming. Those injuries were too much for him to handle.
That's horrible to hear as a guy who grew up in Indiana in my high school years. Very sad for him. I know he's a great guy, very, very nice to everybody. Hopefully, there's rumors now. Actually, not rumors. Greg Oden has gone out to the media and said, I would like to be signed by the Pacers, but there has been no comment from the Indiana Pacers, which is not a good sign for our friend, Mr. Oden. Also in New York, a very big, not even necessarily surprised, but Michael D'Antoni stepped down, didn't get fired, resigned, and after that, I believe they've gone 3-0 or 3-1, 4-0. So they're playing better again, and Carmelo's shooting the ball less, which is even more interesting.
Well, it was weird because him and D'Antoni were feuding.
And maybe it came down to where D'Antoni was like, listen, I don't want to coach this guy anymore. I've done what I could with this organization, and good luck, and au revoir.
Now, before we go to the break here, we do have the all-time leading scorers list in front of us. Kareem, of course, number one with 38,387 points. Now, he played the longest on this list. He played till he was 40, had made some bad business investments, so had to play in the league a little longer to make up some of the money he lost. Karl Malone never won a title, second on the list at 36,928. And Michael Jordan, who has the best point per average with Wilt Chamberlain, who's fourth on the list. Kobe is fifth.
He played only 1,072 games. That's impressive.
Yeah, Jordan has the best. As I mentioned, he has the best average. This is a little interesting because Wilt played 1,045, but it's only 30 games apart, so still 30.1. Now Kobe is about 800 points, a little more shy of 30,000. So if you do the math, he is probably 2 or 3 seasons away from Michael Jordan. I don't think he'll catch Karl Malone unless Kobe wants to play after he's 35. But to have more points than Michael Jordan,
wow,
that's
impressive.
That says it. And to give some perspective on other Lakers, again, Shaq is 6th on this list and will stay there for a long time because no one in the modern era is anywhere close on this list. If you look at all these, Dirk Nowitzki, outside of Kobe Bryant, Dirk has the most points of an active player, and he is at 23,685.
Dirk is 20th. That's very impressive.
So Dirk's a Hall of Famer. It is interesting.
Definitely.
It is interesting that sometimes people question that, but you're a top 20 all-time scorer, and you're going to be in. And Dirk will have a couple of years to go a little bit higher.
Those stats. And Reggie is 14th, which is also very impressive.
Yeah, Reggie Miller 14th, and Larry Bird 29. Magic is not in the top 30. So just if you want to compare Kobe Bryant and Magic Johnson. Of course, Magic, at one point, the all-time assist leader.
Right. Records don't always matter,
Yeah, I mean, John Stockton and Mark Jackson have passed him, passed Magic Johnson. So if you want to compare Magic Johnson and Kobe Bryant, it's a good conversation, but I think Kobe does win. Okay, we're going to take a break. On the other side, from the New York Daily News, Dick Weiss. You're listening to Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com. Back here on Louis Live, we're dialing up Dick Weiss from the New York Daily News.
Hello.
Hi, is this Dick Weiss?
Yes, it is.
Hi, this is Ari Louis with Israel Sports Radio. You're live on Louis Live. How you doing out there?
How are you?
We're doing great. It's a pleasure to have you on. This is going to be a lot of fun to break down March Madness right in its prime. And we've had a lot of great upsets already. I'm sure, I don't know about you, but my bracket is busted. And I did have...
That'll teach you to play the favorites.
Well, actually, I had Duke losing in the first round of Lehigh. I announced on the show. I'm not making that up. It's in my bracket. But I had Missouri going to the Final Four, so I'm kind of up and down there. Between the number 2 seeds losing in the first round, which one surprised you more?
I think Missouri surprised me the most because, not that it hasn't happened before, because MEAC teams have beaten number 2 seeds 3 times in this tournament. I just was, and Norfolk State had played Marquette to a 2-point game earlier this year, but I thought Missouri was playing extremely well. And, they seem to have all of the components you need to go deep in the tournament. They had the 4 guards. They had the great point guard in Pressey. They were getting terrific play out of Ratliff. And then it just all fell apart. They put themselves in a position to lose. You just can't sleep in first-round games. I'm sure that probably stunned their fans as much as it stunned the rest of the country. And just about everybody in the brackets. It's funny. ESPN has, every year they have a bracket pool. There is one bracket that is perfect at this point after one bracket.
That's incredible. Because last year there were 2 guys, I believe, that had Well, they had the final four correct, but that really is a telling statement that no one has this correct, and we're just past 2 rounds.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think the Lehigh and Norfolk State upsets really probably broke a lot of things, because even though I was not totally sold on Duke this year, I don't think they paid much attention to detail on defense. I felt that I felt they probably should get by a first-round game in Greensboro. I mean, I think most people did. And probably the same people felt the same way about Missouri was basically playing in a Big 12 site, but it didn't happen. And I don't know how many people had Ohio U in the Sweet 16 either.
Right. Hi, Dick. You're on right now with Raphael. Thank you again.
Hey, Raphael, how are you?
I'm doing good. We're very excited to have you on.
Oh, my pleasure.
And we're the first thing I want to talk to you about. I was checking out your LinkedIn before, and I saw that you posted that Zach Rosen from University of Pennsylvania Quakers got an invite to the Portsmouth tournament.
Yeah, I'm so happy for him. He's a really nice kid.
Yeah,
and he's a classic gym rat. I'll tell you what. His performances down the stretch when Penn was getting back in the Ivy League race, particularly that road weekend at Dartmouth where he scored his team's last 16 points, and the win at Harvard where he scored his team's last 9 points, were just incredible. I mean, he, in Philadelphia, they've done a lot of great basketball teams, a lot of great basketball players. I can honestly tell you in the last 20 years, I don't know of one person who is more indispensable.
Wow.
He basically single-handedly lifted this team into contention. And I got a chance to go down and see his last game last night. They played against Butler in the CBI, which is kind of a third-tier postseason tournament at the Palestra. And he's just really gracious. It's funny. I was with Tommy Amaker recently, Raphael, and we were talking about the numbers between Jeremy Lin and Zach Rosen. He said, Rosen actually had better numbers this year than Lin had his senior year at Harvard. And the one thing that I love about him is he not only scores points, but he makes other players better. I mean, and I honestly believe that more and more pro scouts are looking for players who can contribute in the category of points contributed, not just points scored. And I think this kid does that. He obviously, if he gets a break, there's been a couple more and more pro scouts filtering in to watch his last games. If he can get on a summer league team, he's a great kid. He works really hard in his game. Classic gym rat. I mean, who turned himself into a player by playing high-level AAU basketball up at Colonia, New Jersey, and then later at St. Benedict's Prep, and played at a very high level in the summers. And so it wasn't like a major adjustment for him, and he really brought the Penn program back this year. And I'm very fond of him, and I think that I wish him nothing but the best.
Right, and what's interesting is in not a lot, but in a couple of the tabloids in Israel recently, there's been some rumors that potentially powerhouse Maccabi Tel Aviv or Hapoel Yerushalayim, two of the main squads, especially Maccabi, who's currently in the quarterfinals right now of the EuroLeague, which is tonight for all listeners out there at 10 p.m. local time. But there's rumors that they might offer him a contract if the whole NBA gig doesn't work out.
What? I think he'd be great over there because he's got and he plays the game the way it was meant to be played. He has a very high basketball IQ, and he understands the point guard position. He not only gets his teammates involved, but he's never afraid to step up and take the big shot. So he's a kid that you would find it very easy to root for. Very well spoken. I mean, clean cut kid. Really kind of loves basketball and is going to have a Penn degree, so I bet him the right thing.
Well, we're wishing him the best at Israel Sports Radio. Actually, we're going to try and get him on the show. It's very interesting to see that.
Yeah, he's good. You would really like him. You would really like him.
Great. Yeah, we've had Tamir Goodman on a couple of times. It'd be interesting to have another well-known Jewish basketball player who definitely just has great things coming for him. Zach Rosen, we wish you the best of luck. We want to move on now to, you told me that you are, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that you were in Louisville this past weekend for the games. Is that correct?
I was in Louisville and Columbus. I was commuting back and forth.
So
about 3 hours either way.
I want to start by talking about the game that to me was one of the most intriguing games when the bracket came out. It kind of was one of those games that you have to be a real big college basketball fan to appreciate because it was an 8 and 9 seed. So now I'm talking about the Iowa State Connecticut game. Of course, Connecticut has had a very inconsistent year. Jim Calhoun has been he was suspended and he was also not healthy, and Andre Drummond was supposed to be very good and he wasn't as good as advertised, and Lamb kind of didn't fill up that leadership role, and they really struggled this year in the Big East. On the other side, we almost have the opposite, a team that really exceeded expectations, led by Royce White, the transfer from University of Minnesota. He got in trouble there for stealing a laptop, but Fred Hoiberg recruited him. And then Chris Allen from Michigan State was also a transfer. So this team was very interesting to watch. I watched Iowa State a couple times. They were very, very fun to watch against Baylor and Kansas. So I guess I just want to ask you, what were your thoughts before you saw the game? What were your thoughts about this game? And then what were your thoughts after? Because obviously the game was quite an interesting game.
Well, first of all, I was really intrigued to watch Royce White play because although he is not a great shooter, he has the ability to fill up his line across the board with points, rebounds, assists, block shots. Very unusual type of player, 6'8", 270 pounds. If he ever develops a shot, he handles the ball out front.
Right, he played point a couple times.
At size, which is very unusual for a guy that is that big. And he has no fear of playing against anyone. Kentucky actually thought that they might sign him when he was actually looking to transfer before he went to Iowa State.
Right.
That would just give him another All-American to on the floor. I think the key to this game was going to be Iowa State's ability to make shots. They had 4 guys who were decent shooters, particularly Allen and Christopherson. In that particular game, I don't know that Kentucky can do a better job of guarding the line, the 3-point line, college basketball. And you're dealing with a team that, is a good 40, 42% 3-point shot team, and they shot 3 for 22. So when that happened, it really turned Iowa State into more of a one-dimensional group. I mean, White got his points, but Allen shot the ball very poorly. And you can't play against a team like Kentucky unless you have your 3 best players playing at a very high level. I mean, once Kentucky got it going in the second half, I don't know they can play much better. They shot 55 for the game. And the guy who I thought was going to be the weak link on that team, Marcus Teague, ends up with 24 and 9. Right. And really, it's almost like they dared him to beat him because you can't guard everybody in Kentucky. You possibly guard 5 future pros. So what you do, you try to take the point guard out, hope it affects their comfort zone. But that's the best I've seen Teague play in over a month. I mean, just a week ago when they played Vanderbilt in the SEC championship game, he did not score. I mean, he shot 10 for 14 and had 24 points. And Darius Miller, their 6'6" senior, who had really struggled with his shot throughout the course of the SEC tournament, shot 7 for 11. So Kentucky was playing at a very high level in that second half. That game went from 42-42 to Kentucky up 24. I mean, they have to be the prohibitive favorite going in to this weekend and most likely into New Orleans, although, anything can happen in an Indiana Kentucky game, but I still believe that they're going to be the team to beat.
Okay, great analysis there. We speaking of Kentucky and Indiana, let's move down to the Indiana game against the VCU, which was also another very weird game to watch the last 10 minutes. No one could score, especially VCU. I think they only had 4 points the last 12 minutes. They could not hit a bucket. Their defense, though, is just wow. It was one of the best defenses I had ever seen, and that really caused a lot of problem for the Hoosiers, who've had an amazing year. And I think they forced 22 turnovers on the Hoosiers. And the thing to me that should scare other teams, as a big fan of Indiana and a follower of Indiana, is Cody Zeller was very aggressive in the end of the game. The last time Indiana played Kentucky in Assembly Hall, Cody Zeller was kind of scared of the ball in the end of the game, and the guy who ended up winning it for them was forward Christian Watford. But this game, you just kind of saw something crazy in Cody Zeller's eyes that he just said, "I'm going to take over this game." And he did at the end. He really helped them. Then, of course, Oladipo had an and one with 47 seconds left. So I want to get your thoughts on the rematch, which is what they're calling it at IU. It's a very big game there. I have a lot of friends in Bloomington. Everyone's very, very excited for this game. Kentucky obviously wants to get the revenge. That game that they lost, Anthony Davis and Terrence Jones were really probably their worst game. Actually, no, their worst game of the season by far. Their best players that game were Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and Jeff Teague, ironically, or not Jeff Teague. No, Jeff Teague.
Right.
So no, not Jeff Teague. His brother. Who's his brother? Marcus Teague. Sorry, Marcus Teague from Pike. So I just want to get your thoughts on the rematch. Do you think Indiana can compete if Watford plays like he should play, and if Zeller demands the ball more?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot harder because the game isn't at Bloomington.
Right.
I don't know that they're going to shoot the ball out quite as well from the three. I think Kentucky has put special emphasis on guarding the three, particularly after they lost that game at the buzzer, almost the same way that John's Memphis team lost the national championship by giving up a three to Mario Chalmers. So that's been a special point of emphasis, particularly in the half court for Kentucky, is not to give away threes, and they've done a pretty good job with that. I think that Indiana is probably 2 years away from hanging a banner from the rafters if Zeller stays. And he's the type of kid from a small rural community in Washington, Indiana, comes from parents. His older two brothers, one played for Notre Dame, the other is a senior at North Carolina, and neither one of them ever considered leaving early. And Cody may wind up staying. He's almost been a Pied Piper in recruiting. They brought in, I think, as good a recruiting class as there was in the country, all local kids. I mean, they signed Yogi Ferrell, and they signed the kid Hollowell, and they signed the kid Jose Perea, who are going to make them markedly better next year. They're not a great defensive team at this point. That's the one area that they have to concentrate on, but they all have very good basketball IQ. They get how to play. I mean, Holes is a pretty good leader, and Zeller probably has the potential to be the most athletic big man ever to play at Indiana. If you notice, in Bobby Knight's great teams, most of his post players were big physical presences like Benson and Down. The only guy that I really remember coming close to Zeller in ability was Ray Tolbert back in '81. But Zeller is gifted. You very rarely can see a guy who can catch and shoot in the run and finish on the dribble. And he has got probably as good a footwork as any freshman in the country in the box, and that includes Anthony Davis. Right,
and the three Zeller brothers, I was in Indiana during that time. They both won Mr. Indiana, and the oldest one actually won a buzzer beater against Plymouth, and it was kind of one of those things that everyone watched on YouTube and was all over the news across Indiana. Now he's actually an assistant coach for Indiana Elite, which is one of the top AAU programs in the country, which is, I think the head coach of the team is actually Jordan Hall's father. So that's what the eldest Zeller is doing. But
all of those kids are going to Indiana, play for Indiana Elite, by the way.
Right, Indiana Elite is. I grew up playing against a lot of them. I played against Jordan Halls a lot. So Indiana Elite has had a lot of great players in the past. And if you look at Indiana in general, a lot of players At Ohio State, Deshaun Thomas is from Indiana. At Duke, the Plumlee brothers are originally from Indiana. They went to prep school, I think, in North Carolina, but they're from Indiana. All across the country, there's guys from Indiana that are really producing this year. So shout out to Indiana for anyone listening out there. Actually, I was can you give us, what was the final score of the Butler Pennsylvania game?
Oh, Butler wins by 10. I don't have a final on it.
Okay.
Butler still has got some remnants of that Final 14 run. Ronald Norrid's back and Brandon Marshall's back. It's not a great shooting team, but they do have a great coach. I mean,
absolutely. And
is one of those special young people who really understands the nature of the game, and he does it in such a classy way. I mean, it's ironic, had things not turned for Tommy Green, I would think there would have been a lot of clamoring to have Brad go down to Bloomington a couple of years, but Tommy has really turned it around in Indiana. I think only good things are going to happen to that program from now on. And Brad could have had bigger jobs. He could have had the Oregon job. I mean, he could have had a number of jobs out there. But he seems happy in his own skin coaching at Butler. It's a small school, high academics. He gets kids with very good basketball IQ. There is a lot of thought that they actually might move from the Horizon League to the Atlantic 10 League.
Right.
In which case, that would allow them to go to a league that probably will get more than 2 bids a year and allow them a better chance of establishing themselves on a national basis every year without having to win their conference tournament.
Yeah, and there could be a really cool rivalry there between them and Xavier. But actually, speaking of Brad Stevens, Israel Sports Radio is happy to announce that we will be having Brad Stevens, but we were told that he could not come on he would like to not come on the show until they lose. So we're rooting for him to win, but we're also rooting for him to lose because we really want to have him on the show to talk about his story. For those people who don't know, he was a non-paid assistant when he first started. He was working at Lilly, but we'll go into that with him when we have him on. But so we wish the best of luck.
Tell him he's one of those special people. You will really enjoy talking to him. Yeah,
we're very, very excited to have him on. When he heard about the opportunity, we were told he was very excited. He has some ties to Israel. Maybe it's religion. I'm not really sure, but he was very excited to be on. So let's move on a little bit to the Sweet 16, which is starting this Thursday. Let's do this. I'm going to talk about one matchup I think is very intriguing, and then ask you about it, and then you can pick one that you can tell our listeners that you think is really interesting.
No, you guys ask the questions. I'll answer them. Okay.
Okay. Okay. No problem. I want to talk about this Ohio-North Carolina game because Ohio is this team that's kind of been under the radar. We actually had Coach Senderoff and Coach Dambrot from Kent State and Akron this year, and a lot of people expected Akron to go to the NCAA tournament, but they lost to Ohio by 1 point in the MAC championship. This Ohio team is led by a star guard, you can call him now, DJ Cooper, who was on the team 2 years ago with actually Indiana transfer Armin Bassett, who they beat Georgetown, which is a huge thing back then, but then they lost in the next round. Now they're in the Sweet 16. They're playing a North Carolina team, which is obviously much more talented than them, but they just lost Marshall to a scaphoid injury. And let me tell you, I've had a scaphoid fracture, and I do not think he will be playing this Friday. I know his dad's been talking in the media and saying this and that, but I just don't see how you have surgery Monday and then play Friday. I don't see it happening. This North Carolina team could overlook this Ohio team. A lot of people have, really. Even in their own conference, they were overlooked. I'm not saying the upset's going to happen. I just think it's a very cool game to potentially watch. Cooper's a really great guard. I've been watching him for a couple of years now. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I think everything is going to be focused on the point guard position in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
I mean, Kendall Marshall has got the best assist ratio of anyone in the league other than Ty Lawson 2009. He had the best assist ratio, turnover ratio in the ACC this year. He's averaging 9.8 assists. He's playing 33 minutes now. if he can't play, how do you replace that? I mean, you can try Stillman White a little bit, but more likely I would suggest that Carolina will probably try to play point guard by committee and let Harrison Barnes and DJ Harrison and Reggie Bullock have most of the ball handling responsibilities. If they can do that, their front line probably ends up overwhelming Ohio in the end. But they're going to have to go out and guard the three because Cooper's capable of a big number. And, Ohio State is fairly well coached. I mean, John Gross is a quick rising star in this business. He was back out as assistant at Ohio State. Now he's turned this thing around quickly, and my guess is he might end up getting an interview with Illinois if Shaka Smart turns that job down.
Okay. Very good inside information there. The next matchup that's I'm going to call it the matchup of stars. Besides, well, actually, no, I think that's with them. You got this Marquette versus Florida team. Florida's loaded with guards with talent. Marquette had the Big East Player of the Year, and they also Jay Crowder, and they also had Odom, who was also, I think, in the top 5 in scoring. So Marquette can definitely score. Florida, like I said, is led by their guards. So you have a lot of high-profile players playing this game. I really like Coach Buzz Williams at Marquette. He's done a really good job with the program. A lot of people were scared it would collapse after Crean left, but he's actually, honestly, if you look at the numbers, he's done better than Crean in the regular season and in the postseason. So shout out to him.
He hasn't been to a Final Four yet.
No, it hasn't been to a Final Four yet, but he's only been there.
Tommy did, and Tommy built that thing up from scratch.
Right.
When he got there.
Right, but
pretty good players.
Yeah, but Tom
has done a good job filling the roster with junior college kids. And he's done it very unconventionally. Crowder and Johnson are both junior college kids from Howard, Texas, and Hutchinson. Crowder is a beast. I mean, he is a 6'6", 230-pound. It looks like he would have a future as a tight end at the NFL. He doesn't have a place in the NBA, and there's actually been some pro scouts out there ask questions about whether he would have an interest in playing pro football. They play extremely hard. I don't think that I'm not as sold on Canogan, their point guard, as I am on Florida's guards, but Florida's going to have to deal with Crowder too. I don't know. They're going to have to show me they can stop him.
You think?
Florida's played a lot better down the stretch. I thought they played well against Kentucky in the national semifinals. I think that they played very well on Sunday against Norfolk State. They put 84 on the board. I mean, they have legitimately 4 guards that they can use and can all hurt you. I mean, obviously, Boykin and Irving
Walker.
Walker. The little kid from Christ the King. Irving Johnson, is it? No. Oh well, doesn't matter.
Irving Walker. Irving Walker.
Yeah, it all blends together after a while. And they have the kid Rosario, who was a transfer from Rutgers, who was with us down there. So they can do a lot of things that can hurt you from the perimeter. It's going to be highly dependent on them to keep Patrick. Losing my mind here. Who's the center?
Patrick Young?
Yes, he's going to have to be on the floor.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be on the floor. I saw them play last year, and I thought they were a Final Four team. And they got to the regional finals. I thought they would be in the Final Four last year. They didn't quite happen for them. Butler found a way to beat them in overtime down in New Orleans. But Florida has always had good guards because Billy Donovan was a self-made guard, and he understands the offensive end of the floor. They know how to score from various spots on the floor. They're going to be dealing with a Marquette team who is just rough, physical, and will try to take you out with their defensive intensity. Marquette. The only issue I have with Marquette is an issue that I saw in the Big East tournament when they played against Louisville. He had 26 turnovers in the loss.
Wow.
And that's a bad number.
Yeah.
That's a number you don't want to deal with. And Louisville scored 84 points, and Louisville doesn't score 84 points on anybody. They found a way to get to 84, and 41 of those points were off defensive turnovers. So when that happens, you worry. And, Florida will probably try to go out and press because Billy is good. I don't see Billy sitting back. He'll try to be very aggressive defensively. So that game goes either way.
Right, and last year's Florida team, one of their starting, I think, power forward, Alex Tice, is currently playing in Israel from Maccabi
Really?
Ashdod. Yeah, from Maccabi Ashdod. He's actually having a very great year. He just had 27 points, 10 rebounds in a game, and he was actually a participant in the slam dunk contest, which was very fun to see. He's a great guy. We had him on the show. We really enjoyed the interview with him. But we really want to thank you for coming on our show.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure, guys. Listen, I hope you enjoy the rest of the tournament.
Oh, yes. It's. I'm not enjoying my bracket being busted, but outside of that, it'll be fun.
Okay. Just enjoy the moment. It'll be next 2 weeks. It'll be fun. I'm probably going to get 4 Goliaths in there. I don't think we're going to have any real Cinderellas make it to New Orleans, but you know what? The ratings will be up. So everybody won't be happy.
At the end of the day, I think that the public, they could say they want Cinderella, but I think they want to see Carolina, Kentucky, the top teams play the Final Four.
You are right on the money. I think the first weekend they love the upsets. The second weekend, not so much.
Right. There you go.
Right. Very well said.
All right, guys. Listen, it's so good to talk to you both. Best of luck with your show.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Be well.
Okay, guys.
All right, that was Dick Weiss from the New York Daily News coming here on Israel Sports Radio on Louis Live. And let me tell you, I know that Indiana-Kentucky game is on Shabbat here. Is it Shabbat also in the States?
Yeah, 9:45 p.m.
So I'm not going to encourage anyone to break Shabbat, but if anyone wants to leave their TV on, I mean, that game is going to be awesome. 1 versus 4 and a rematch of the game earlier in the regular season where the fans stormed the court, and winner goes to the Elite Eight.
Winner really, honestly, you got to say winner maybe goes to the Final Four because at least if Indiana wins, if they beat Kentucky, they're going to win. They're going to beat the winner of Baylor or Xavier. I mean, how could you not?
I think Kentucky also would win Baylor versus Xavier.
Yeah, so pretty much
winner goes to the Final Four.
Yeah.
So a lot to talk about. I mean, we'll have some time in the end of the program to talk about how Israel Sports Radio brackets are doing. Some people don't want to talk about it, whatever, but I'll tell you, we'll tell some of the top leaders and a theory of how they got to the top, which is actually very funny. You'll get a kick out of that. And Bass, what would it mean to the fans of Indiana to get that victory over Kentucky? We're going to take a break. Then on the other side from the sporting news, Michael D. How do you say the last name?
I think it's DeCourcy.
DeCourcy. Okay, Michael DeCourcy. Sporting news. That's on the other side. You're listening to Louis Live at IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamic.
Back here on Louis Live, and we're pressing a bit for time, so we have to cut that commercial break. I apologize to our sponsors, but we're going to have our next guest coming on. As you hear the dialing in the background.
Hello.
Hi, is this Michael?
It is.
Hi, Michael. This is Ari Louis with Louis Live. You're live on Israel Sports Radio. How are you doing out there?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. It's wonderful to have a gentleman from the Sporting News on, and so much to talk about. And most of this interview will be March Madness, but we got to talk a little Peyton Manning because he ends up going to the Broncos. At the end of the day, was it money? You think that pushed him to Denver? He gets the $95 million contract with the Broncos. What are your thoughts?
I think money is a lot of it, but he certainly isn't hurting for money at this point. It's more about what he thinks he can succeed in, an environment that he thinks is built for his last few years to be successful. I'm sure that if the poorest team in the league with the worst players around him offered him that kind of money, he'd have said no. I'm sure he's looking at Denver as a situation in which he can flourish as a quarterback and be successful and perhaps win another championship. Whether it's possible or not is going to largely be dependent on how healthy he can remain over the rest of his career.
Yeah, I mean, we're not still sure exactly for the next surgery. A lot of doctors have given him the okay, but you never know. He's 36 this Saturday, and there's a lot of ripple effects. Speaking of Saturday, Jeff Saturday apparently will join Peyton. There's talks with Dallas Clark as well. The ripple effects, Alex Smith may feel burned. What do you think will happen in San Francisco? Is Alex Smith just going to have to suck it up and go back to the Niners, or do you think he'll get really upset and demand a trade?
Well, I think he can look around, but it doesn't seem to make much sense. He's finally found a place where he can be successful and continue, perhaps continue doing that into the future. He hasn't had a great career to this point. He's coming off his best year ever. If he wants to make it a personal deal, he certainly can do that. He wouldn't be the first athlete in U.S. sports to make it all about feelings and that sort of thing. But that's business. And San Francisco put up with his poor play for a long period of time, and now they thought they had an opportunity to do something extraordinary with Peyton Manning. They tried to take it. It didn't work out. So it's up to Alex whether he wants to try to move forward or not. But I don't think he'd get a lot of respect from U.S. sports fans if he decided that one circumstance was enough to end his career as a 49er.
And one of the confusing things I have is regarding Manning not choosing the 49ers. The 49ers signed Randy Moss. You're not so sure where to get from Randy, but they also signed Mario Manningham, and you are pretty sure where you're getting from him, a prime top receiver in the NFL. It was part of the reason Manning not going to San Francisco because of the NFC, and he'd have to play his brother potentially in the regular season and the playoffs, maybe a little more often than in Denver.
I don't think it was that so much as more familiarity with the AFC.
Okay.
And knowing what your situation is, knowing who you're going to be playing against, and also the huge opportunity that exists in the AFC West, which is just so poor. And so the opportunity to make obvious improvements. Don't forget, San Francisco was really good last year, and you don't necessarily know that you're going to come in and be able to fix a lot. There weren't that many things wrong with them. They won under a certain circumstance, and you would represent a dramatic change to that. Whereas in the case of the Broncos, you're talking about a team that was only 500 last year. Even though they won a playoff game, they were only 500. And frankly, if the playoff circumstance were a little bit more reasonable and you didn't get a home field advantage just for winning your division, you actually had to have the record that justified it, they probably wouldn't have been able to win a playoff game either. So they weren't very good. He can make dramatic improvements in that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly Super Bowl, but perhaps AFC title game, hard to say. One last question regarding the NFL for you tonight. Tim Tebow, what happens with him? There are some talks, Jacksonville. Where do you think he goes from here?
Well, I think the market for Tim Tebow is going to be very limited. I don't think that there are very many NFL teams that are going to want to essentially change the entire way they do business to get a quarterback who is not proven as anything other than ordinary. He has certain skills that are high level, but that don't typically translate to the NFL. And I don't think one playoff win and one nice stretch is going to change that for a lot of teams. Somebody desperate, maybe. Jacksonville's the talk, but Jacksonville just invested the number 9 pick in the draft, I believe it was, last year in Blaine Gabbert.
Right.
If they totally believe that Gabbert can't play, and he had a horrible rookie year, then I suppose you might want to do it. But if they do that, they're essentially saying we just totally screwed up. And there aren't a lot of people in the sports business that like to admit those mistakes that fast. And then the second thing is we don't know that Gabbert can't play. We know that he wasn't able to play in that circumstance with that particular group of people with his limited experience, but he might actually be a player. He might have some ability. I watched him several times last year. I didn't see it, but whether or not it's there, that hasn't been determined yet at this point.
Hi, Michael. You're on right now with Raphael. It's great to have you on the show.
Oh, happy to be here.
Great. So now we want to shift more to college basketball, which I believe is more of your expertise. It's a great time to talk about college basketball, of course, since we're heading into the Sweet 16 this upcoming weekend. But let's talk about the past before we talk about the future. One of the most intriguing matchups, I think, we kind of talked about this early in the show, but I just kind of like to get your perspective or thoughts on it, was the Kentucky-Iowa State game. Iowa State beat Connecticut real well, and then they moved on to Kentucky, and they actually played really well in the first half. I believe it was tied at halftime or close. Roy White was really just kind of – everyone who didn't know about him suddenly knew about him, the former Minnesota transfer. But just what are your thoughts on that Kentucky game? Teague had a monster game. That's kind of been the weakness of Kentucky this year. What were your thoughts?
I'm sorry, what did you say you thought the weakness was?
Jeff Teague, or Marcus Teague, I apologize.
Oh, Marcus Teague, yeah.
Right.
Marcus is a freshman and so not very experienced. And I'm not sure that, I think it's hard to call it a weakness. I think it was just a question of, not really being ready yet and having to take on a lot of pressure and responsibility without much experience. But he was terrific on Saturday, and Iowa State essentially dared him to be the star, and he handled it. They guarded the other players on the team really tough and sort of left him alone, didn't put much pressure on him, and he took great advantage of that. Royce White, I was at the game. Royce White was extraordinary, and a measure of how really good he was is to say that Terrence Jones did a heck of a job, and Royce still had, I think, 23 points and 9 rebounds. So it shows what a lot of work he had to do just to keep himself in that game. It was a tough night, but he handled it.
Right, and White is an extraordinary story. There's just an article published about how he suffers from an anxiety disorder, and he kind of had problems with that in Minnesota. I don't know if the anxiety disorder led to it, but he said he had a lot of things that weren't going well in Minnesota. He got in trouble for stealing a laptop and all that, but he really seems to have found a good place in Iowa State, and Fred Hoiberg got knocked completely by a lot of the media for kind of taking these guys who got in trouble. They also took Chris Allen from the Spartans, Michigan State. So I think, what do you think? The turnaround Iowa State under Coach Hoiberg's been pretty extraordinary, don't you think?
He's been terrific. He's done a great job. It is a risk to take as many transfers as he took. Usually for a college basketball team to take one transfer or two is not a bad thing, because the key is that with the rule that says you have to sit out a year if you do transfer, you essentially can only do it once. And so the next coach, the second coach, has all the power because the player really doesn't have any other alternatives. So it's good to have a guy like that in your program where he has to do it your way, or his next step is basically irrelevant. But when you take 5 of those guys, you're betting a lot on whether or not you can handle it, and they did a terrific job with it. They had a nice season, huge improvements over past years. Royce was a terrific player, nearly made our All-America team, and if he started playing great earlier, probably would have. So everything worked out well for them, and I thought they had a really nice year. And if Royce decides to play another year of college basketball, which I think would be smart, because he just doesn't shoot the basketball well enough yet to make an impact in the NBA, I think that Iowa State would be one of the top teams in the country.
Wow. Okay, great. So now I also want to move on to something very interesting. As a Midwest guy, I grew up in the Midwest. Let's talk a little about this Cincinnati teams that are, ironically, after that huge fight back in early December. We've been talking about this on the show a lot. Cincinnati kind of had a really great year, and Xavier not so much. It kind of went downhill after that. Xavier got everything together and is back in the Sweet 16, which is not a big deal for them, is really, because they've been doing it a lot lately, and they've had so many great coaches in their program the last 10 years, or now are at Ohio State and Arizona. But Cincinnati, in my opinion, has kind of been one of those teams that was under the radar in the Big East. They had a very good winning percentage in the regular season, and no one really talked about them that much. And now they're in the Sweet 16, and they're playing another team from Ohio. They're playing Ohio State. So first, what are your thoughts on the whole Cincinnati Xavier coming out of their whole fight in a positive way?
You know, I was at that game because
wow.
I live in Cincinnati, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
And so I was at the game, and it was, I was very disappointed in the way that went, because it hadn't been a very good game, and it wasn't really worth much. It really wasn't worth the time that the fight created. It was just a typical blowout. Cincinnati was playing terribly at that point. They thought the season was going to come easy to them. It didn't want to work at it, and that game was sort of like their bottom. Even if it hadn't been for the fight, I think Cincinnati would have been in for some dramatic changes on the floor. And certainly the fight had a huge impact on Xavier. They had been playing great basketball to that point. The suspensions damaged them. The negative publicity damaged them. I don't think they ever really recovered from it. And they had some good fortune in the tournament. They had a relatively easy circumstance, a good first-round game where they knew they could look the other team right in the eye. Notre Dame was not overwhelmingly talented, had a nice season, kind of overachieved. So Xavier knew they had a shot in that game, and it went down to the wire, and Xavier was able to prevail. And then in the second game, all they had to do was beat Lehigh.
Yeah.
It was tailor-made for them. And you know, people, the Xavier fans are wanting to be all excited about Kenny Freese and the game he had.
Monster
and look,
game.
It was a nice game, but he was playing mid-major guys.
Yeah, you're
he
right.
should be able to do that to them.
You're right.
If he has that kind of game in the next round, then that's when we'll get excited about it.
Okay, very, very good point. Wow, you're right. This is kind of something also interesting thing I want to talk about. The Zags under Coach Mark Few. If you really look at it, some of the guys on CBS were talking about this after their game. They're now starting to be one of the I don't know what the right word in college basketball is for bust, but they're starting to be one of those programs that are going to be in the top 25 every year. But in NCAA tournament time, they really it's not even struggle. A lot of their games are usually close, but it's just they can't seem to make the hump and get into the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 or Final Four. And a lot of the years, I don't know if you say they'd have the talent, but they've definitely been in the top 20 or top 25, top 15. With Adam Morrison that year, they had an amazing year. They still couldn't get that far. I just wanted to get your input on that. And what do you think? Obviously, Mark Few's not going to get fired. He's there for as long as he wants. But what do you tell recruits when, we're going to be in the top 25, but we can't really seem to win that much in the tournament? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what you tell them is that that the more times up the bat that you have, the more chances you are going to have to break through. And that's what John Calipari said to me in an interview I did with him that you can find on sportingnews.com right now.
Okay,
he said
well, check it out.
That the most important thing that you can do is get your chances. If you have chances, eventually you'll have the opportunity to break through. I mean, if you think about you go back to Bill Self in the 2000s, in the decade of the 2000s, there were constant complaints that he couldn't get past the Elite Eight. He'd been there 4 or 5 times, first with Tulsa, then with Illinois, then with Kansas, and there was this idea that he couldn't get past. And it's the same kind of mythology that developed around Jim Calhoun once upon a time. Couldn't make the Final Four. Well, you can't until you do it. And it's as simple as that. there isn't any can't in this game. There's only you haven't yet. And so right now, Gonzaga's team on Saturday, they gave Ohio State a great game.
Right.
Ohio State was the better team. They played well, and they were able to win. Gonzaga didn't shame itself at all. It beat West Virginia by about 100 in the first game.
Yeah, 23.
So I don't think that there's a problem there. There are things they need with their team. They need a more athletic wing player. That's the one thing that's always been a shortage for them. They've never had a ton of it. The athletic wing play, it's always been a weakness for them. It hurts their defense. It limits their offense. It's hard to find for them because there aren't a lot of guys in their region that are like that. They've had good access to big people. They've had terrific big people in their program, from Josh Heitfeld to Casey Calvary to Robert Sacre, who was a fine player for this year's team. But they've always had good guards, but they haven't been able to get those wings. And that's been the key. The wing play is what works for a lot of teams in college basketball. Those guys who are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", who are athletic, who can shoot the basketball or drive it. And Gonzaga has never been strong at those positions, mostly because of geography, and that's what's held them back.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now to moving on to another interesting team. In the Sweet 16, we have, I believe, 3 teams that are 10 seeds or higher. I think that's correct. Xavier, Ohio, and NC State. So I want to talk about NC State. They are led by, in my opinion, C.J. Leslie, who got a lot of hype when he got there. I think it's his sophomore year. Last year was his freshman year, I believe. This team was one of the teams I think, I don't remember, because in Israel we don't get the selection Sunday, so you don't get to see it. I only got to read about it. But I think NC State was selected, maybe one of the last teams selected in, and suddenly they've had a nice little run here. San Diego State was a solid 6 seed under Coach Fisher. They had a pretty good year. A lot of people didn't think they'd have as good of a year, but a solid 6 seed. Then they beat Georgetown, which also was one of the top teams in the Big East. So this team's been under the radar. Now they're playing this Kansas team, which at the start of the year, no one really knew what to expect. Now, after the season's over, they've had an amazing year. I think they won the Big 12 for the 8th season in a row. And just what do you think about this NC State team? It's kind of one of those, maybe this could be this year's Cinderella Final Four. Obviously, they don't have the talent, and Kansas is a great team. And then they'd probably have to play North Carolina in the next round. But so far, it's a good story.
Well, I got a chance to see NC State in person for the first time. I saw them practice early in the year, and this Sunday was the first time I got a chance to see them play in person. And I was really impressed. But they'll put more good players on the floor, 1 through 8 or whatever it is, however many they use, 8 or 9 guys. They'll put more good players on the floor than Kansas will. I'll tell you that right now. That is, to me, that's beyond debate. Now, they won't put anyone on the floor that's as capable as Thomas Robinson or Tyshawn Taylor for Kansas, and that's where Kansas has to make the difference. They have to make their great players matter more than the variety that NC State has. And that didn't happen on Sunday against Purdue. Purdue's best player, Robbie Hummel, had a great game. Kansas's Thomas Robinson had a poor game, one of his poorest of the year. And Kansas can't expect to continue winning in this tournament if Thomas Robinson does not play well. They just don't have enough around him for that to be the case. Thomas has to be more comfortable playing in this tournament. What I saw on Sunday against Purdue, now I was not at that game. This was from watching on television. I saw a player who seemed anxious, who pushed shots from close to the basket over the rim. When a guy with his ability does that, that says to me that he is feeling pressure.
Absolutely.
And not physical pressure, but game pressure. And so he's got to relax and play basketball. If he doesn't, NC State can absolutely beat them this week on Friday. There's no question in my mind.
Okay, great analysis there. Speaking, I got to do this because, I told you, from the Midwest. I grew up in I lived in Indiana during my high school years in Bloomington, so I am a Hoosier fan. So it'll even be more shocking to you when I do this. But I got to give a lot of credit to Robbie Hummel. Two torn ACLs, I believe, on separate knees, so not even on the same knee. And he just came back and had a great year. We had John Akers from the Basketball Times last week, And we were talking to him about pretty much this Purdue team. You look at it on paper, it's Robbie Hummel, who has those 2 torn ACLs, and a bunch of role players. No one on that team really stands out. Bird is a good player. Kelsey Barlow got kicked off. Even their point guard, I forget his name, Jackson, I think. He's a short guy.
Yeah.
So really just a lot of credit to Robbie Hummel for everything he accomplished for this team, and maybe even more credit to Coach Painter, who was rumored to leave for Missouri, but I think he turned down the job before the year, which now is kind of ironic since Missouri had such a good year but then couldn't succeed in the NCAA tournament. But did you get a chance to watch Robbie during the season?
Yes, I saw Robbie in the Big Ten tournament. I got a chance to see him there. I'm trying to remember. I might not have seen him in the regular season, but I definitely saw him earlier this month in the Big Ten tournament.
Okay, so yeah, just had to give a shout out to Robbie Hummel there. So next is another. These Sweet 16 games this year, in my opinion, are just really, every game has something very intriguing or interesting about it. Let's move on to this Baylor Xavier game, which you talked about Xavier a little earlier, but let's kind of focus on it in more detailed. Baylor's is loaded with talent. AC Jones, I forget their 3-point shooters. He's a great player from Canada. He had 27
Brady
points. Right, 27 points. But they're very, very inconsistent. I've seen them play horrible against teams in the Big 12. So this is kind of the matchup of the. If you look at the Sweet 16 bracket, it's kind of the battle of the inconsistent teams. You never really know what you're going to expect or what you're going to get from them. So what are first of all, who do you think is going to win this game and why? And can you just tell us more about what you're looking forward to in this game?
I would pick Baylor. If you think about it, the inconsistency that Baylor's played with, a lot of that had to do with them playing more often as a 3-forward look, with Quincy Miller and Anthony Jones playing a lot. And later in the year, they went to a third guard. They started playing A.J. Walton together with Pierre Jackson and Heslip, and it's made them a better team. It's made them better defensively because Anthony Jones was doing a horrible job, just playing terribly, and Quincy Miller just isn't ready yet to be a great player. He's very talented, very young, needs more time. And so Walton is a fully developed player. He's been there for 4 years. He's played in big games. He's not a great talent, but he's played a lot of basketball and a reasonably good athlete. Heslip is a great shooter, and Pierre Jackson is a dynamic playmaker. So now that they're playing the 3 guards, they're getting better shots for Heslip. They're better defensively. I mean, you see the numbers for Heslip have gone way up since they changed. They're better defensively because Walton makes their defense better than Jones or Miller were. And so they're a better basketball team. They've only lost once basically since they started in earnest with the 3-guard look. The loss was to Missouri in the Big 12 championship game. I think that they're a better team now. Xavier still hasn't played great basketball. They played better in the Atlantic 10 tournament, but lost in the final. They got handled in the final by St. Bonaventure. I mean, they were never in the game. They were able to beat Notre Dame in that game in their first NCAA tournament game that I talked about before. But then in the second game, they didn't play great early and came back to beat Lehigh. But they didn't. I mean, obviously, you're playing Lehigh, which was a 15 seed. It's not the same as playing somebody like a Florida State in the second round. So they have yet to play great basketball. They haven't really played great since the fight, since November, early December. So you might say it's still in there, or you might say it's completely lost forever. And this game really is their last opportunity to show that they're not the team that they've been for 2 months, 3 months, that they were the team that they began the year as. If you look at their record since what happened with the fight, they're still only 15-12.
Wow.
15-12 since that happened.
Not very
they're
good.
They're not even an NCAA tournament team since the fight. No. But they were able to get here because they took advantage of their circumstance. They played a solid game against Notre Dame and won. They played better in the second half against Lehigh, but again, it wasn't the toughest test. So here's a chance for them to show who they are as a team. And even if they don't win it, I think they can make a greater statement by playing competitively with Baylor in this game than they would than they did even by making it to this far.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us on our show. We really, really appreciate it. We hope we can have you on again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoyed it, and good luck to you and your show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. We really appreciate it. Have a good one out there.
Take care.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So, interesting discussion there. By the way, we're going to get later on in the program about polls where people are at. Obama is in the 98th percentile. So he certainly has a lot to brag about. Some of us are not. We're going to take a break, and on the other side, we're going to be having a Israeli basketball coaching legend, Ilan Kowalski. So that'll be a real treat. You're listening to Lubus Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Lewis Live. Our next guest, Ilan Kowalski, is dialing him right now, about to pick him up. If he's not available, we can go to a commercial break and try to dial him up again. And we'll wait a little bit more before we do that. Actually, it's not so bad. We need to catch up on a sponsor. Okay, we're gonna take a break and try to dial him again on the other side. So you're listening to Louis Live in Israel, sportsradio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Louis Live, and we were not able to get in touch with Lon, but we have somebody better, a fan favorite of Israel Sports Radio, and my former co-host, Yossi G. Yossi, how you doing out there?
What is cracking?
Actually, I haven't heard your voice since you left Israel. How is the old country?
The old country is rather old. What can I say?
Yeah.
It is what it is, and yeah. It's actually probably has nicer weather down in New York than it is in California, believe it or not.
Well, and probably nicer than here. It's been very cold in March in Israel.
Well, then, if that's the case, I definitely can't complain, because it's been a rather warm and lovely time since I came back, perhaps because I brought the weather with me from Israel.
Yeah, apparently. All right, so give us your thoughts on the Peyton Manning situation. Goes to Denver. Looks like Tebow is out. What are your thoughts over there?
Well, for starters, talking about just Manning coming into Denver, no matter what happens with Tebow, the best thing for him to do right now is as soon as Manning touches down in Denver, if he, he's supposed to be there, I believe tomorrow or the day after. As soon as he gets there, go pick him up at the airport. Go, just be there, be subservient to him, learn from him, see how you can be a better quarterback, because that's what he said he has acknowledged himself as Tebow, that he needs to be a better quarterback. And here you have the opportunity to see, to learn, to visualize it for yourself from one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, at least, of course, the regular season quarterback. And you have this opportunity to take what he kind of gives off, what he shows to everybody, and bring it and internalize it for yourself. That is what Tebow has to do. So long as he is still a Denver Bronco, make the best out of your situation to better yourself as a quarterback. Obviously, the Denver Broncos want to trade him now, as there's been these rumors going around that they're looking for various trade partners, but Tebow presents a dilemma and a quandary for Denver Broncos for their hierarchy, because not many teams have the desire to change or mesh their already existing offensive systems to what Tebow is used to what Tebow is comfortable with doing, to what he wants to do. Therefore, a possible trade partner is very, very limited, and certainly they're not going to get a first-round draft pick for Tebow, which is what they ended up drafting Tebow in at the end of the first round when Josh McDaniels was at the helm there in Denver.
And what do you think happens with Alex Smith? I've asked a few people this already on the program. He could have his feelings hurt. On the other hand, Raphael made a great point. He sucked for the first 5 or 6 years of his career, had one good year. Maybe he should just suck it up and deal with the fact that they wanted to upgrade a Manning, didn't work out. Go back to your upgraded receiving core of Mario Manningham and Randy Moss. You were a play away from going to the Super Bowl. Probably the favorites out of the NFC in many people's eyes. What do you think happens with Alex Smith?
Alex Smith's feelings were hurt. That is without a doubt, no question. But if Alex Smith has any brain on his head, which is between his shoulders, I would hope, he will understand that a team that is looking to get better, that is looking to get to the Super Bowl, because that is the goal of every team, no matter what type of situation the team finds themselves in. If they were trying to get better, they obviously were going to go after the best available quarterback than they had. Every team that looked at their situation and said, hey, an 80% healthy Peyton Manning is better than 80% of the quarterbacks in the league. And that, of course, is what San Francisco felt with their quarterback, with Alex Smith. They said, hey, we have Alex Smith. He did a pretty good job for us this past season. But we feel that Peyton Manning, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks ever in the NFL, a sure first ballot Hall of Famer, is an upgrade from Alex Smith. Even if he did win the Super Bowl, I would argue that they would have gone after Peyton as well. If Alex has any brains, he will understand that it is a business, this is a situation. However, you are given the opportunity now to go back to your team, the team that you were on since you were drafted number 1 overall. And yeah, you could even argue perhaps that Alex Smith will say, look, if you want me to come back, maybe give me a couple, $1 million bonus, a signing bonus for me to come back on, because look, essentially my feelings were hurt. Yeah, I didn't appreciate you going after Peyton. You really want me? Make me an offer. I can't refuse.
Hi, OCG. You're on with Raphael. Good to have you on and hear your voice.
What's up, man?
Let's switch over to the NBA, if you don't mind, and talk about some of the maybe trades, firings, resignations. Let's talk about New York, which is where you're from. The D'Antoni move. What are your thoughts on D'Antoni resigning? Did you expect it? I think they've gone 3-0 since. So let's get some input from a New Yorker.
Well, D'Antoni, the first question you're asking of did I expect it? Yes. because an organization, either he was going to resign or they were going to fire him, whichever one came first. Because an organization is not going to keep their coach unless his name is something along the lines of, I don't know, let's maybe if they had like anybody that you can possibly think of that has won a lot of games, I guess you could say. Somebody who's not a single offensive system. If you have a wizard as your coach, then yeah, you'll do this. But any team is going to, of course, go after their coach, because at the end of the day, that is where the buck stops. You will fire your coach before you trade your best player. That's what's going to happen. Now, of course, it's to be argued if Carmelo Anthony is their best player, but that's for another a day. However, this was sort of expected. Okay, he resigned. He saw that he lost Carmelo Anthony's ear. You lose your star player's ear. You lose his willingness to deliver, his willingness to listen. He looked like on the court, you're watching him play, he looked like he was just out there, whatever, lackadaisical, doing his thing, going through the motions. I don't know if it is a combination of Carmelo trying to prove to the media that, hey, there was no rift between D'Antoni and myself, that he perhaps is doing a little bit extra playing, dare I say, defense now, but he is doing that. And what do I expect out of Mike Woodson? Look, interim coaches are a very fickle situation. You come, you go. Look at what happened with Lawrence Frank with the Nets back in the beginning of this millennium. He led them to an NBA record 13 straight wins, and he was fired a couple years later. It's not as if you're going to hang around. 3 wins to start off your stint as a coach of a new team is going to guarantee you anything. It's not. Sometimes a team will figure out with their coach when the coach should resign, or when they're going to fire the coach at a portion of the schedule where it's a little softer than somewhere down the road, so as to give their interim coach an opportunity to get confidence building blocks with his players, so string a couple wins together. Hey, we can do this with this new guy.
All right, and Yossi G, talking about Derek Fisher leaving Los Angeles Lakers. He's going to be bought out, and there are rumors that he's going to go to Miami. Do you think the Heat should pick him up, and how will he help the Heat win a title this year?
I had it as a 50-50 chance that he was going to go to Miami, and a 53-47 chance that he was going to be picked up by David Stern's team. But yeah, going to Miami would be a great fit for Fish, because it's a team that I really think lacks veteran leadership outside of Dwayne Wade. There's nobody there who really has the poise and uncanny ability like Fish has to deal with the media, deal with the players, deal with all the superstars that he had as teammates, and yet be able to come out on top. It would be a very, very good fit for Fisher, because here he goes from a team where they have their firepower that they still retain, that being the Lakers, to a team that has a bullseye on their back, and he loves that. Look at what he did with the Lakers in the beginning of the 2000s when they won all those championships. He loves that added pressure to play with. He didn't, of course, he's a little older, and he wasn't averaging as many minutes nor as many points, but it's that off the court, in the locker room presence that I think Miami is really, that's their X factor that they're missing in order to put them over the top.
All right, and a few more minutes with Yossi G here on Louis Live and Israel Sports Radio. Your bracket, Yossi G. What's the story with it?
Oh, my God. Don't even go there. It's been destroyed.
I think everyone's been destroyed pretty much. Did you have Missouri in the Final Four like a lot of us?
Well, I'm just getting to it right now. In my Final Four, I had, of course, Kentucky University. I had Long Beach State, which that really killed me there. I had Kansas, and I had FSU.
You did not have North Carolina. Interesting.
I did not have North Carolina. I had them being beaten by Missouri. I'm sorry, I had them being beaten by Michigan, who of course got upset by Ohio University.
Now I do the only one of the four. Well, actually, I have Kentucky in the Final Four and Florida State, so we still agree with 2 of the 4. Interestingly enough, what is the bigger upset to you? Missouri losing as a 2 seed or Duke losing as a 2 seed? Which I did call. I did say Lehigh would beat them in the first round.
No, I actually think that the biggest shocker was Missouri going down because Duke, yes, ranked number 2, but they've shown a lot of question marks throughout the season. The winning that they were able to come out with, the wins rather, they were able to come out with in their games kind of masked the bigger and larger problems that they've had on the team, that being depth. Don't think that they have a lot of depth past the 6 men, and Coach K is doing the best that he was able to over the course of the season to aid his team and put Band-Aids on the team in order for them to put out the best product that they could. However, of course, they were exposed in the first game of the tournament.
All right, and Indiana, Kentucky, big game. Raphael, of course, rooting on the Hoosiers. What do you think happens? 1 versus a 4 seed. A lot of people, you have Kentucky in the Final Four, so I'm assuming you think they will get by the Hoosiers this week.
Yeah, I think they're going to get by the Hoosiers. They're playing for more than just a shot at at getting to the Elite Eight. This is also revenge. Remember, Kentucky had 1 loss the entire season, and that was to the Hoosiers.
Right.
So I expect them to really get over this and give them a little bit of a whooping. If they do, right now, it's not a Sweet 16. It's Kentucky and the other 15 teams. It's Kentucky's tournament to lose, even though I have Florida State as beating Kentucky in the final.
Wow.
But I still think that Kentucky is the team to beat. Look up and down that lineup. You got guys who are going to be lottery picks, and you have guys who are going to be at the end of the first round. Just about every person on that team is NBA eligible, NBA, draft worthy. So it's a team that really has talent, and if they hit their jump shots, they are almost nearly impossible to beat.
All right, OCG, we got to run, but thanks for coming on Louis Live. We certainly appreciate it.
Pleasure. Until next time, guys.
All right, be well.
Bye, OCG.
Bye-bye.
All right, so OCG, very confident in the Kentucky Wildcats winning the whole thing. A lot of people are really at this point. We're going to stay on the line right now, and what we're going to do is we're going to dial up a very special friend of the program. And while I'm doing that, Raphael, go ahead and say something.
Okay, let's talk about potentially this weekend's big matchups in the Sweet 16. Indiana, Kentucky, Baylor, Xavier, Michigan, Louisville, Syracuse, Wisconsin. We didn't talk about with our guys. We can talk about that a little tomorrow. Syracuse, of course, has gone through all that, all those scandals this year with Coach Fine and then the drugs. Wisconsin's one of those teams that wasn't expected to get this far, so that should be a good battle. Wisconsin has a good All-American point guard. Like we talked about the North Carolina-Ohio game, we're still waiting to hear about Kendall Marshall. But okay, looks like we're about to get someone online. So
yes, we'll have a very special treat if this gentleman picks up, as we will wait for him to pick up. Oh, okay. We're not supposed to call right now. All right, great. I appreciate him telling me that. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was talking about this North Carolina-Ohio game. North Carolina is just lost Marshall to a scaphoid fracture, which I'm very familiar with, as I mentioned. Doesn't look like he's going to play. North Carolina has Henson down low. I don't really know who Ohio will put up against that, though they have star guard DJ Cooper, who's a really great under-the-radar player who hopefully will play in Israel next year for some pro team. Be great to go see him play. Cincinnati and Ohio State. Ohio State is my favorite to reach the finals. A great team. Deshaun Thomas, Aaron Kraft, William Buford, and of course, Jared Sullinger. They call him JJ. So we'll see what happens. It should be a great game since he's led by senior Yantu Gates, who's really been a great player for the last couple of years. And
okay, now we're dialing.
Looks like we're good now. Maybe not.
No, he'll pick up. Okay.
Hello.
All right, on the line now on Louis Live is Cali Dave. How you doing, Cali Dave?
I'm doing super myself. A little A little worried about this upcoming year. $96 million richer Peyton Manning. He's got some incentive to light it up, and we got to face him twice a year. As a Charger fan, I would have been happy to face Tebow for the next 10 years.
That's a great point, because I remember you wanted to come on last week and talk about your thoughts. Did you think at the end of the day he was going to Denver? He looked pretty strongly at Tennessee, met with them for 8 hours, went to college there. What made it swing Denver's way? Was it the money?
I think it's more of a few things. First is, Elway sitting there in control. They kind of have the same mindset as experienced quarterbacks. Elway, if you recall, won his Super Bowls late in his career. Manning, obviously, coming to the golden age of his career, it's winding down. They signed him for 5 years. I don't know how many of those years he puts them in contention for a Super Bowl. But bottom line is, in Denver, you have a good system in place for Manning to step in and to be very successful, and also to have the sort of independence that he needs to flourish. I believe John Fox can be pushed over a little bit. John Fox would be happy to say, all right, Peyton, do your thing. Elway obviously really, really wants him. They connect on that level, but I really didn't expect the Broncos to land him. I thought he would want to go somewhere. Even with him on Denver, I don't put Denver as a Super Bowl favorite. If he would have went to the Dolphins, I put the Dolphins as Super Bowl favorites right there. If he would have went to the Cardinals with Fitzgerald, they got to be Super Bowl contenders right there. I mean, in the West, you're now the favorites. Great. But you're still facing all the same opponents in the AFC. And even when he was on Indy, the last year before he got injured, he wasn't the same Peyton Manning, I don't think. So this move specifically for me as a Charger fan, I'm not too excited about. But for the rest of the AFC, you gotta be kind of happy that that's where he went. The Broncos, they can do all right with him, but I don't think they instantly become favorites.
Well, what if you went to the 49ers, Mario Manningham and Randy Moss?
That's it's over. If he goes to the Niners, they're dominant. I mean, that's sort of like going to the AFC West, but in the NFC, you're going to a horrible division, no real competition, and the defense that they got there right now. I mean, I don't know how Manning can't go there if he's looking to win another Super Bowl. I mean, that is instant Super Bowl favorite if he goes to the Niners.
So that money then, that was the difference? I mean, I still was confused why he didn't go there. I mean, that seems to be prime location for Manning.
I think it's a lot about Mr. Elway. You got to thank Mr. Elway. I think he really finagled the deal. I think he knew the right words to say to Manning because he was in Manning's place. Okay, Elway had a situation just like Manning. He was in the end of his career when he won his Super Bowls. Manning wants more Super Bowls. His little brother's got 2. He can't be, So Elway must have said it was behind closed doors that this deal got done. Peyton Manning, $96 million. He's got to be happy. In my opinion, the Broncos will get 1 or 2 years out of him before injury or something breakdown of just. I mean, he's always going to have the mental capacity, but I mean, he's been in the league already for 15 seasons, so it's the end of his career. And on another note, what does that mean for Tebow? Does Tebow take a back seat now? Where does Tebow end up? What's the story? I mean, Tim Tebow was the talk of the NFL last year. He won 7 out of 8, won a playoff game. How I don't understand how you feel a need to get that franchise quarterback. That was the thing. You heard the term thrown around all year last year by Elway. I don't know if we found our franchise quarterback. As Tebow was winning 7 out of 8, as Tebow won a playoff game, Elway wouldn't commit. Now he's got what he wants. He's got that franchise quarterback. But what does that do to a young quarterback who had an awesome year last year? Really, he expanded as a player. What does that do to his confidence? Where does he end up? What is Tebow mania, is that going to continue, or is he going to fade into the distance?
Well, I have this idea. Actually, it was given to me at Broncos Mike, one of our callers, that Tebow should stay with the Broncos, not so much to be the backup quarterback, but to be a running back. So I thought that was a pretty funny idea, but I actually like it in all seriousness.
It makes no sense because the threat of his run, the only reason it exists is because he can throw the ball. I mean, when he's solely a runner, you key in on him and he becomes nothing more than a glorified fullback. It kind of reminds me of the situation in Philly when you had Vic and you had Donovan right when Vic got out of jail, and they used Vic as sort of like a wildcat / third down quarterback, and it did not work. And I'm not going to see Manning coming out of the game for Tebow to take some snaps in the Wildcat. It just underutilized. And from what Tebow did last year, his value just went up tenfold. Okay, he's shown he can win in the NFL with the right coach, with the right personnel on his team. He's a winning quarterback in the NFL. Teams will pay for that. Denver cannot afford to keep him on the roster. They gotta. It makes no sense to keep Tebow if you have Manning. If Manning gets injured, you then bring in Tebow. But the whole offensive, mindset, with Tebow in the game and Manning in the game, it's a complete reversal. There could be no more polar opposites in terms of how you run your offense when you have Tebow snapping and when you have Manning snapping. Think about it. How can a team shift from Manning to Tebow? It doesn't make any sense. It's two contrasting styles. So I just can't see them on the same roster. I'd like to see Tebow go into a situation like the Ravens. I'd like to see him go to the Ravens, who have a defense that can support him, and Ray Rice. They don't stretch the field, the passing game, as it is. Okay, the Ravens would be a great fit for Tebow. I think they could win a Super Bowl with Tebow as their quarterback.
All right, Callie, Dave, we'd love to have you on. We'll have you on another time, but we're at the end of our show. But thanks for being on Louis Live tonight.
All right, you take it easy, and a shout-out to all those Charger fans out there.
Absolutely. All right, man, be well. All right, that was Callie, Dave, and when we get closer to the season, I'm going to ask him who he predicts to win the AFC West, and he's a huge Chargers fan, but I think he'll say the Broncos. Before we end the program tonight, breaking news, Hines Ward, the Steelers', I believe, all-time receiver in yards, is announced his retirement, and he's also up in the top of all-time touchdowns. The Super Bowl MVP is Super Bowl 40 against the Seahawks. Remember, he had that option pass and won Super Bowl 43. He was injured, but still has a reign, and he played in Super Bowl 45. So, Hall of Famer, in my opinion, and that's his retirement today. That's going to conclude our show for tonight. I want to thank everyone who's involved. Dick Weiss from the New York Daily News, Michael DeCostere from the Sporting News, Yossi G, and Callie Dave. Stay tuned tomorrow night as we have a jam-packed show. Well, we will get into the Israel Sports Radio pool tomorrow. Sorry we ran out of time. That, of course, is tomorrow night. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.